All right, let's get started. Light reactions, these things are going to occur in chloroplasts, so it's only happening in plants and algae, and there are some photosynthetic bacteria. We'll talk about them in a moment. The inputs to the light reaction are actually just light and water, no carbon dioxide yet. Okay, so you feed light and water into the light reactions. The output for the light reactions are ATP and oxygen. Okay, and so this is great. In the very first step, we're generating ATP, and that's kind of the whole point, right? Is to get ATP for our proteins to operate on. Okay. Let's take this step by step. How do plants actually harvest the light? How do they actually grab onto the light? And that's where the chloroplasts come in. Okay. You can think of leaves as gigantic solar panels. Okay, and the chloroplasts and the cells in those leaves are the little, I don't know what a solar panel is made out of, but the chloroplasts are the smallest units that can actually absorb light and do photosynthesis. How do they do it? Well, they use a molecule called chlorophyll. Okay, and the way chlorophyll works is this. Chlorophyll is what makes chloroplasts green. So chloroplasts are full of chlorophyll. Okay. Now, the way it works is sunlight is, mostly white light, a little bit yellowish, a little bit reddish, depending on the time of day. And as you might know, sunlight or white light is composed of all the different colors of the rainbow. Okay, so if you pass white light through a prism, it'll break up into the rainbow. Here's our rainbow. What chlorophyll does is when white light strikes chlorophyll, chlorophyll will absorb a few different colors of light. It'll absorb red and orange light, and it'll absorb blue and violet light. Okay, so it's going to soak up red, orange, blue, indigo, violet. Okay, and it's going to use that light energy for photosynthesis. What it won't do is chlorophyll will not absorb yellow or green light. Yellow and green light just bounces right off of chlorophyll. Okay, and this is why chloroplasts look green. And this is why plants look green, okay, because most of the plant that you see is green because it contains chloroplasts, which contain chlorophyll, and the chlorophyll is taking all the sunlight around and sucking up the red and orange and blue and violet light, and it's letting the green light bounce off of it or pass through it. And so that's the only colored light we see from plants is the green. All right. Let's take a look. Let's finish up with the light reaction. So we know we've got chlorophyll absorbing light. Okay, it's going to take that light energy and produce ATP. All right. Now, one of the side reactions of the light reactions is called water splitting. Okay, in water splitting, molecules of water are actually ripped apart into their component atoms, hydrogen atoms and oxygen atoms. Now, the hydrogen atoms we save for later in the next step. Oxygen is just blown off as waste. That's the oxygen gas that plants are giving off. Okay? The ATP, okay, now ATP is great. That's what the plant's proteins are going to be able to use for energy. But the plant's not done. We need to go to step 2. And in step 2, we're going to store the energy of ATP. Okay? And the reason we have to store it is because the light reactions only operate when the sun is shining. Okay? And so the plant has to be able to deal with things like nighttime when the sun goes down, or winter, right? When it's just cloudy all the time. Okay? The plant has to be able to store this ATP energy for times when there isn't very much sunlight. Okay? And the way they're going to store it is with step 2, the Calvin cycle. Okay, so the ATP comes directly from the light reactions. It's almost like ATP is a little energy transfer molecule, bringing energy from the light reactions to the Calvin cycle. The next input into the Calvin cycle is carbon dioxide. This is where you're going to want to talk to your plant and give them some carbon dioxide. We're going to do a set of chemical reactions called the Calvin cycle, and the output is going to be our sugar. Okay, and in most cases, the first sugar that's produced is called sucrose, which, if you remember our macromolecules, sucrose is a disaccharide composed of one molecule of glucose bonded to one molecule of fructose. Okay, the cool thing about the Calvin cycle is we're building complex macromolecules like sugars out of very simple starting components. Carbon dioxide, right? Carbon dioxide contains carbon and oxygen. Carbohydrates, the sugars, are composed of carbon dioxide, oxygen, and hydrogen. Right? So for the Calvin cycle to operate, all it needs is the atoms in carbon dioxide, and it's going to steal some of the hydrogen atoms that we got from the previous step, the light reactions. And that gives us carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And with those three atoms and the energy in ATP, we can start creating the bonds that produce our high energy macromolecules, sugar.